All right, so we've wanted to do this podcast with you, Brady, for a while now, and of course, thank you for coming over to our house here. And you rolled in here in a wheelchair, and I think this episode, it's it's a very serious one. And it's a wonder that there aren't more boating accidents, but you were involved with a very serious accident. In 21, was it?
2021.
2021. If you would start off with and by the way, I mean, you are heavily involved with bass fishing, everything to do with bass fishing. You've been around for decades. We've seen you at all the shows around here in the DFW area. And can you just walk us through right out the gate, what happened in 2021?
So on December 12th, 2021, a buddy and I went fishing, and it was 28 degrees that morning, and we went to Cedar Creek Lake, one of our favorite places to fish. We had made the decision that morning we were going to start on the dam that morning. Like I said, it was cold. When we took off from the ramp, as clear as a bell.
Yep.
I was, of course, dressed up with, ski apparel, big jackets, all that stuff.
And you're riding shotgun. You're in the passenger seat.
Yeah. Toboggan over the head. So we're running across the lake, and we're running about 65 miles an hour going to the dam, and I've got the toboggan pulled down, just sitting down in the passenger seat. And when we round the main point heading toward the dam, I felt him back off the throttle. So of course I raise up, look around, and it's getting foggy. He says, "Getting foggy?" And I said, "Yeah, it is." So I lower my head, and I'm just kind of sitting there, arms folded, waiting until we get there. And the next thing I heard was, "Oh, shit." And I raised up, and when I raised up, there was a 45-degree section of rock. And then the dam. So if you've ever heard an ice skate stop on ice, that's what a bass boat does. I mean, you hear the and then I was thrust forward. There was no console. The driver had the console to hold him in. So I was thrust forward, body hit everything on the front of the boat, trolling motors, grafts. I flipped in the air, and I landed flat on my back on the top of the dam.
Wow.
I got lucky enough that we were going fast enough that when the boat went up, it actually breached the top of the dam, stopped, I went out. So if we'd have been going, they anticipated us going about 40 miles an hour when we hit.
Now, you brought some footage with you today on your phone,
Yes.
and I think we're going to go ahead and get that footage, and Charles will overlay it on here to really paint that picture. But just tragic, man. Absolutely tragic.
Yeah.
Did you black out?
No. I mean, and that's the thing. Everybody thinks that I just knocked out. But I can still recall the sounds of every single piece of it. Like when I hit the ground, there was just that, direct thud.
Oh.
And I can still remember the sound of the grass that was up there that crunched around my ears.
Wow.
And just the sounds of it, I can still recall like it was yesterday. But I knew whenever I hit the ground, something was wrong. Like the air came out of me. I'm sitting there gasping for air, but I could tell every breath that my back hurt. And it was a different kind of back pain. We've all had fishing back pain.
From the waves or whatever.
This was like a dull, just different feel. So by the time I'm sitting there, laying there in pain, my buddy, the boat had drifted back. He gets out, climbs the rocks, gets up there to me, gets on top of me, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Man," I really think I broke my back. And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Man, something hurts bad." And he said, "Well, don't look at your left ankle." He said, it's not looking the right way.
Oh, man.
And of course, I can't sit up to look, but, I kind of laid there. Well, I had my phone in my pocket. We called my wife, tell her, I said, "I've been in an accident." I said, "I know I've got some broken bones. I'll let you know what hospital they take me to." So the second call was EMS. So about, 15 minutes goes by. The back of the dam has like a little ranch road, so EMS had to figure out how to get through that. So when they finally get to me, the first thing to do is they put the neck collar on, the back brace, roll you over, put you on that, and they start inspecting everything. Well, they start cutting clothes off of me, and when they cut clothes off of me, my right femur's sticking straight up.
Compound fracture.
Blood everywhere. So they decided at that point to care flight me. So I was care flighted to UT Health in Tyler, and I spent 78 days in the hospital there.
Wow.
In UT Tyler. So I got really lucky when I was brought in the helicopter. I was brought in. They had top-notch surgeons there. The trauma surgeon that was there that day, he was trained at Harvard. I mean, top-notch. Like, you know,
Good
everyone
hands.
told me, like, you know, you got the right wrench when you came in. But I recalled everything in the flight. You know, I mean, I remember, you know, they started an IV of morphine on me, and you know, I'm watching those rotors turn, and I remember everything going into the hospital. They rolled me into the the OR, and you start hearing stat this and cross that, you know, all the crap you see on ER and Grey's Anatomy. And then lights went out. You know, the next thing I know, I woke up and it was 4 days later, and I had a ventilator in my mouth, and I couldn't hear anybody, or I could hear people, but I couldn't see. I didn't recognize any voices.
Oh,
you know, I've got
gosh.
this pipe in my mouth, and this was 2021, so this was like the second round of COVID. Where everybody's dying of COVID, and there I am. I wake up, and I've got a ventilator in my mouth, and I'm starting to panic, like, what the hell happened? And
Was your wife there when you woke
wife
up?
was not there yet. So this lady gets on top of me, and she says, "Hey, we just woke you up." She said, "You know, we've called your wife. She's on the way." She's like, "You've got a ventilator in your mouth." She said, "You've got a broken leg." She said, "You've got a broken ankle. You broke your back. You broke 2 ribs, and you broke your shoulder."
Oh.
And she starts telling me all the, you know, you've already had this surgery and this surgery and this surgery, and you're going to have another one this week to fix your ankle. She said, "But when your wife gets here, we'll see if we can remove the ventilator." So wife gets there. We live about 2 hours away in a little town called Cattle Mills. So I'm in Tyler, Texas. So they get my wife there, and we make the decision to take the ventilator out, which, you know, if you've never had a ventilator pulled out, it's not
Sucks.
fun. It feels like they pull it from your toes.
Oh.
But, you know, they pulled that out, and I was able to breathe on my own. And then I start kind of realizing, like, ooh, this is pretty bad. You know, I mean, I wake up, I've got my shoulder in a sling, I've got a back brace to here, I've got both legs in casts, and I have one free hand. Wow. And I'm like, oh no. And at that time, I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't move them. You know, the extent of the injuries at that time were still pretty unknown. I had been fixed back. They had fused my back from T12 to L2, which was a lumbar fracture. Ribs were on my right side. Shoulder didn't need a surgery. My right femur had been repaired with a plate and about, I don't know, 20 titanium screws. So I had a plate on the outside, and they had put cement in my knee because the bone had fractured. You know, there's pieces of it that weren't, you know, I mean, it's kind of like a piece of wood. When you break it, splinters go out. You know, there's pieces missing. So they had packed me back with like bone cement, stuff like that. And at that time, I didn't know, but it was pretty much a situation where they had put Humpty Dumpty back together again, if you will. Like, they had put me back together like, hey, this guy's never going to probably walk again. And I remember the first time when I was in ICU that my surgeon came to see me, and I asked him, I was like, what's it looking like? You know, like, am I going to walk again? And he said, you could just see his face. You know, you could read his face. And I said, what are my chances? And he said, I'd probably say 25 to 30% chance you'll walk again.
Wow.
And I looked at him, and I told him, I was like, I'm only concentrating on the 75, because I said, you know, I'm going to beat this.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I have a young family.
Yeah.
I've got a beautiful wife, and I've got, at that time, both my boys were 4 and 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I had to get going. And luckily, as I laid there in the hospital bed and recovered, you know, all the horror that is staying in the hospital. I mean, if you want to change your life, go spend as many days in the hospital as I have.
78 days, you said?
78 on the first try. We'll get to the second one here in a minute. So, I spent 78 days in that hospital. I had to have a bone graft surgery at a later time. What happened is as I was recovering, like, I'm going to say a couple weeks after the accident, I started getting a little bit of sensation back. Like, you know, when I'd pull my sheets up, I could feel like the sheets as they went over the hair of my legs, and it felt electric. And, you know, it's kind of a good sign.
It's a good
that things
sign,
are waking up. And, you know, I look back at like my old videos, and I have videos of where my feet are sitting there and covered in a sheet, and I could just barely bump my feet, you know, just barely. And every day a little bit more came back, a little bit more came back. So I got to where I could move my legs a little bit, to where I'm like, hey, y'all, I think if I could stand, I think I could walk.
Things were
but
looking good.
my surgeon told me, he said, well, this is a good sign, but he said, if you're going to walk again, you can't walk on what you have right now. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, your bone's been repaired with cement. He said, you need natural bone. He's like, well, you're put back together right now, but you're not weight bearing.
So did they, when they did that, they didn't plan for you to walk?
That time, I mean, I think, you know, in a trauma situation, they kind of just decide like, hey, you know, I think this is what's best for this guy going forward, or this is what we kind of anticipate the recovery looking like. So, you know, then we're trying to work backwards. So I'm laying there in the hospital, and about 3 weeks after I'd been in the hospital, they transferred me to an inpatient rehab facility, which is same exact hospital format. The only difference is you're not wearing a gown, you're wearing shorts and a t-shirt. It's still got, you know, you still got IVs, you still get the same old blood draws. It's still hospital. So I had asked about what did we need to do to make it, you know, weight bearing, and he said, well, if we need to do that, we need to do a bone graft. So had a surgery where they went into my left femur. They remove your kneecap, they go into your left femur, and they core out like an apple core, some bone marrow. He made a bone graft. They go in there, they did a surgery where they go in there and they tear all the cement stuff out, if you will. They make you a bone graft, put it back together, stitch me back up, and then he wanted it to 90 degrees in 48 hours. So if you've never had a knee surgery like to that extent, 2 degrees is a lot.
Wow.
And, you know, the pain that I haven't endured with this thing has been unimaginable.
Wow.
You know, they literally came in the day that I had the bone graft surgery and took me down to the rehab room and started working on it. And there's no pain med that can get you through that.
Yikes.
I mean, I was taking everything in the hospital they'd give me. At that time, I even had an IV of Dilaudid, which is like above morphine, and it still wouldn't kill it. I mean, the only way I could kind of tolerate it was I'd take a washcloth and I'd roll it into like a burrito.
Yeah.
Stick it in my mouth, almost like I was chewing on a stick, you know, and I'd bite it real hard. But I mean, it was unimaginable pain. But
so they wanted movement 48 hours after this.
They wanted it to keep it from freezing up.
Okay, right.
So, you know, did that. Finally got discharged to go home. Still was not weight bearing. So I go home in a wheelchair. You know, we have to have our home totally remodeled. You know, your standard doors for a bathroom, and most wheelchairs can't go through.
Does insurance cover that, or is that
straight out of pocket?
Wow.
So,
what about when you were in the hospital? The first rounds did insurance cover most of it, or?
Yeah, I mean, my wife works at a hospital, and she's an RN. She's a labor and delivery RN, so that was a blessing in disguise. She's very familiar with
process,
you know, healing and what I needed, and it was a blessing that who I'm married to. But
yes.
It was kind of a neat, or not, I wouldn't say neat, but we had just a month before the accident had upped our insurance policy to like the major medical, which covered like cancer, ICU stays. So it was almost like a blessing in disguise that we had done that. So, you know, our insurance, when I was discharged from the hospital, the first bill I got from UT Health was $1.89 million.
Oh my gosh.
And that was just the hospital stay. That wasn't even the physicians, the surgeries, the $3,500 wheelchair custom.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
I mean, everything's different. So like I tell everybody it's like I hit the Staples easy button on a life. It's just everything's reset. Like nothing's the same anymore. You know, I mean, I've been very, very fortunate in my life. I was the kid that, I mean, like you probably, I was raised up fishing.
Yeah.
Like it's all I ever cared about.
Yeah.
I mean, I was that nerdy little kid that rode a bike with 2 rods in his hand, a tackle box. I didn't care about sports. All I cared about was how many hours there were between Monday and Friday when my dad and I could go fishing at Lake Fork again. And, you know, I've always been a big student of the sport, just I mean,
You're a
adore it.
hammer too. Like your
I've always been an
tournament
average
results,
tournament.
absolutely.
Yeah, I've always been an average tournament fisherman. I've fished the opens, the Costas at the time, or whatever they call them now. But always been a good, a well-respected regional angler.
Absolutely.
I've been fortunate that my career, I work as a tackle rep. So I work for a rep agency. We do all kinds of brands in the fishing industry. We do Falcon fishing rods, Costa sunglasses. We do Avid apparel.
How long have you been with them?
20 years.
20. That's what I thought. I thought it was.
Yeah,
a couple
I've been there 20
decades.
years. So you know how it is in this industry. There's a lot of networking. You get to know a lot of people, and then
It becomes like family.
it's a family. It's a small but huge family.
Yes.
So, I've been in the industry so long. I've known so many people. So when I woke up in ICU, and my wife starts telling me all the well wishes that had happened, and so and so's called, and this person's called. Well, one of my longtime customers, Shane Moore at Southwestern Parts and Service, he had already started this benefit tournament. It was him, Zach Ziober that owns Southwest Marine Electronics, and then Kevin Bryant from Fort Worth. So they had started this Brady Winans benefit tournament. It's gonna be on Lake Tawakoni, and I kind of thought, man, that's pretty cool. Well, it happened on February 27th. I got out of the hospital on the 25th.
Wow.
So I actually was able to make an appearance at this event, and man, it was unbelievable.
That's got to be uplifting
it was like one of those Rudy
mentally.
moments, where like my wife and I drove in. Texas High School Bass Association was running the way in. There was like 85 boats there.
Oh, that's so
they
cool.
had raffle tickets being sold. They had so many raffle items that had been donated. Monty Kuhn from Fort Worth did all the cooking. Benny Keith had donated the food. I mean, it was just like,
Awesome.
I was there shaking hands and watched the weigh in, and everybody was patting me on the back. And man, when I got in the car to come home, I just broke down.
I bet, man.
I mean, broke down, because I'd never seen that kind of support. And it didn't stop there. So they had also done like this silent auction that was going to be on the internet.
Yeah.
So there was all kinds of prizes and fishing trips that were donated. I mean, from Humminbird, they donated grafts, they donated trolling motors. There was Falcon rods donated, fishing trips with Jason Christie, Daryl Gleason, blah 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 blah. It went on, and it was a silent auction where you could get online and bid on these items, and that netted us quite a bit of money. And then my good friend Billy Klein had started a GoFundMe, and I mean, it swole up, and I mean, it was just like, how can you get down with that much horsepower and support?
That is so cool.
I had started this saying, or actually a friend of mine had kind of given it to me. At that time, Biden had just come in office.
Yeah.
Build Back Better.
Yeah.
And somebody said, we ought to call it Build Back Brady. So I had some T-shirts made. Well, then 6 Cents stepped in. They're like, hey, let's run these T-shirts and sell them on our website, and then all the proceeds will go to your family. So, I mean, just another
cool.
thing that you're just like, you're so humbled and so grateful for. I mean, I'll never be able to say enough thank yous for the support that I got from that event. It's helped my family immensely, because I mean, the amount of doctor bills. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean,
and still going to this day. Yeah.
So
when you were talking about, sorry, because I had cut you off and we went into that, but you had talked about having to redo your whole house too when you first came home, and you said that the insurance didn't cover that.
No, it's just it's on your own. I mean, I couldn't get in our pantry, because I mean, most pantries, you just walk in pantries at our house. I mean, we have a relatively new house, so we had to have that ripped out. I couldn't get in our kids' bathrooms. If the kids needed help in the bathroom, I couldn't get in there, so we had to widen all the door frames. We had to put rails on the bathrooms so that I could, if I needed to transfer to and from toilet. Had to redo our shower. I couldn't use our walk-in shower anymore. We had
lots of railing, I bet.
Well, we had to make we actually had to turn our tub, our jacuzzi tub, into a shower. So it's got a transfer bench. So I roll up beside our our bathtub, transfer over to bench, close the curtain, and then I have like a hand wand. So I haven't had a hot like Hollywood shower, in 2 years. Those ones you just sitting there and let hot water hit. I don't get those. I get like the camper shower now. So it's and that was a huge cost. I mean, I had to have that done and had to have like you just saw. I couldn't drive a vehicle. Month after the accident happened, we got a letter from Texas Department of Motor Vehicles that my driver's license had been revoked because, they report spinal fractures.
Oh, wow.
So, you're compromised. I couldn't operate my legs, so now I don't have a driver's license. I had a brand new Phoenix boat in my shop, brand new truck. I'm sitting there in the hospital making payments on something I can't drive and don't know if I'll ever be able to drive. So I made the decision to sell my boat, sell my truck. So, I mean, there goes everything in my life that I loved, just gone like that.
Wow.
So, I still to this day go to rehab twice a week. I was going 3 times a week. So I was learning how to walk with the use of, a walker, the rollators, which they look like, like a push cart, and they've got hand brakes. I use those some. I can walk like short distances now, but I have to have assistance.
Some kind of support.
What the main issue that I have is the back brake. It was what they call an incomplete. So most people, if you're totally paralyzed, your spinal cord's severed. I mean, it's just like if you
complete
cut an
disconnect
cord,
to your brain.
complete
Yeah.
disconnect. So I had what they call incomplete. So when the bone broke, it perforated the spinal cord, but not all the way. So you kind of have to wait for your body to hopefully regenerate nerves. So the main thing that causes me issues, I have what they call bilateral foot drop. So I can move my legs, I can move my lower legs, but from the knees down, I'm pretty much paralyzed from the ability to move my feet. So I wear what they call on both legs, I wear what they call an AFO, which holds your leg at a 90-degree angle.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I joke with people, it's kind of like I walk like Forrest Gump now, those braces.
Yeah.
Here's one. So these are the ones that I just had done. I used to use carbon fiber fishing rods. Now I use carbon fiber orthotics. And basically, foot goes in, straps it in, it straps up around your calf. So now you're walking.
Keeps that at 90.
Essentially, it's like you're walking with a prosthetic leg, but you're using live tissue.
But it's your real leg, right?
It's my real leg.
Supported, yeah.
So, I had to have those made. So I walk with that, and then I still go to rehab because your body just, everything hurts. Like, I mean, I tell everybody all the time, I go to bed with pain, I sleep with pain, and I wake up with pain. I mean, pain's relative to me now. Like when I go to a doctor and they say, well, what's your pain level today? Well, my 3 today would have been a 6 before. You you just get used to it. You get to where you deal with it.
And this is strictly in your legs, the pain, or from
it's
your
mainly
back
from
down?
my back to my leg, back to my legs. So I go through portions where I have like nerve pain during the day that it's kind of rogue. I mean, I kind of have ebbs and flows each day where I'll get up, I take my medication, I feel okay for a couple hours, then you kind of hit that midday
Peters
doldrum.
off. Yeah.
You have to take more. So I mean, I never thought at the age of 40, the accident happened, I was 46. I never thought at 46 I'd have one of those pop-up pill containers,
You're right.
because
That
I'm
early.
like, 6 pills in the morning, 6 in the midday. So it's it's been a total life-changing ordeal. So I suffered a setback back in September
Of last year.
this past year.
Yeah.
So I'm literally in my physical therapy facility, and we do an exercise where I sit on a table and I straighten my leg out, and then she pushes down on the lower leg, and I hold it, which strengthens your calf. Like she'll push down real hard, and she'll say, hold it, hold it, hold it, and we release, hold it, hold it, hold it. So I'm in the facility, and my right leg is in her hand, and she's pushing. She said, hold it, hold it, hold it. And about that time, both of us heard this like a piece of wood crack. And about 6 inches above my kneecap, my leg just folds under the table.
Oh my gosh.
And, we pick it up, throw it on the table.
after months of progression.
Didn't you just fish a tournament and win too or something like right before that happened?
Yep, the weekend before that. Sure did.
On Cedar Creek.
On Cedar Creek. So, you know, it's, you take your highs and your lows, but, you know, that thing broke and I had to be rushed to Parkland in Dallas, which is where my surgeon that I had been seeing operates. And I called him, you know, that night when it broke, or that afternoon when it broke. And I said, Dr. Starr, his name's Dr. Adam Starr. He's at UT Southwestern Parkland. Amazing doctor. He's one of the best I've ever seen. But I texted him and I said, my leg just broke. I said, what do you want me to do? And he said, get over here tonight. We'll fix it in the morning. And off we go. You know, here we go in an ambulance. So go over there, and the next morning they have everybody ready to go. So they make a complete destruction of my leg, pretty much. They take all the old hardware out, which
oh man,
I was able to keep.
All titanium?
It's all titanium. So like, this is what was in my leg. I joke with everybody, I had more bolts in me than Home Depot's aisle 7, but all these were in my leg. And this is the plate that was on the outside of my leg.
Oh my gosh.
So this was positioned in the right of my leg, and this broke.
And that's the femur, right? The
femur.
biggest
So
bone in your body.
This was attached to my femur with screws that went all the way to my hip.
It looks like a power pole.
Yeah, it's tight. It's medical grade titanium.
And that thing snapped.
It snaps, and of course, when it snaps, bone goes with it. So they made the decision to take all this out, and they went in and cored both broken pieces all the way to my hip, and we put in about a 10-inch titanium rod that goes from my knee to my hip, holds the bone in place. So then we go bone graft again. So I wake up, you know, my leg looks like a prop from a Halloween movie. It was a horrible surgery. It was 7 total incisions. I mean, huge. I mean, it was swole up, you know, couldn't move it. Same thing. Here we go all over again. Now we got to go right back to rehab. I was discharged from Parkland 5 days later, and I got home that night. I start running fever. So I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. So I called my doctor. Hey, I'm running fever. Come back to the hospital. So I go back to the hospital. They treat me for an infection. I ended up staying in the hospital 23 total days. So now we're up to 100 that I've spent in a hospital setting. You know, kids coming to see me once every few days. I mean, it's been an ordeal.
Oh my gosh.
You know, I'm if there's one thing that I'm proud about with this whole entire ordeal is the fact that I have never got depressed. I mean, like I say, going back to, you know, all the support that I'd had, my wife being a nurse, she drives me, my family, my mom, my dad, my sister, they keep their foot on my butt. I never got the ability to get down. And like I said, you know, I had a young family. I told my wife, you know, the day that I woke up in recovery, that like, no matter what kind of dad, no matter what happens to me, I'm still going to be a dad to those 2 boys.
Yeah.
And they're never going to see me cry, and they're never going to see me quit. And,
wow, that's amazing.
You know, I'm raising 2 little boys that are watching me. So, you know, that's my driving force now. It used to be like, what tournament's next? And now it's what I'm teaching my boys.
Family, so, that is so cool.
You know, when they tell me, Daddy, I can't do this, I'll tell them, you know, don't tell me you can't.
At any point, did you ever like lose the love for fishing? Like, were you ever like blaming fishing for this accident or anything like that? No,
never. I mean, there was a portion where I got like, I didn't want to really talk about fishing.
Yep.
I mean, internally, I still looked at everything, but I didn't want to call my fishing buddies and talk about fishing.
Fishing, right?
You know, my buddies would call and go, man, I really sucked last weekend at so and so, and I'm like, it can be worse.
Yeah,
it can be worse.
I don't want to hear it. Yeah,
you know, I mean, I go fishing now, and I'm very fortunate that I have friends that we still fish tournaments. I fished this past weekend the Team Trail Outdoors at Tawakoni. It's just, I'm a backseater with a front seat mind.
Yeah, right.
You know? I mean, it's just different. The way I get in a boat is I take one of those like little 2-step folding ladders, like kind of like if you were going to put your star on a Christmas tree. And I can climb 1 step, 2 step, and then by that time my butt's even with the gunnel. Sit down on the gunnel and drag myself back in, and then I can get in the passenger seat, and then I just transfer to the middle, drag myself up, and then I lift myself up into the back seat and I fish from the back deck. I'm slow to get the net if somebody catches something.
Yeah, but still casting away. Accuracy.
I can still drive a boat with my foot. I just can't run the trolling motor. So like my goal is, like, I've got like a 5-year goal right now. I want to own a boat again, but I'm not going to own it until I can launch it by myself.
Right.
Like, you know, my oldest is 9 right now, so you know, a few more years he can help me, you know, launch it, pull it up, stuff like that. So I want to be able to captain them in high school fishing. You know, I mean, I captained my nephew for 4 years, and that was a wonderful experience. And I want to do that with my boys for sure.
Was your partner, was he not hurt in the accident?
He was not hurt. So of course he had the visual. I mean, he saw it was coming. I mean, quicker than I did. The steering wheel on the boat, you know, normally you have a steering wheel and the hub's here. He had completely pushed the steering wheel forward, and the hub was here. And of course he had the console to hold him in. He did hit the console, and he broke his jaw like above one of his front teeth. He was bleeding. I mean, he was taken to the hospital. He went to a different hospital than I did and was treated for like concussion. So, you know, it's 3 seconds in my life I'd like to change.
When you look back, is there something that you think we should have done this different, or do you look at it as a freak accident?
I said all along, you know, there's no blame in this. Like, you know, he and I have remained friends. There was never any kind of issue there, but it's no different. I mean, there's no doubt that there was, you know, it was just a mistake, you know, kind of like if you're riding with someone, they run a red light, you know, and someone plows you. I mean,
happens every day.
It happens every day. And I mean, boats don't have brakes. I mean, it was just he just either zoomed in too far, or just didn't judge the GPS right. Not that you're supposed to navigate with a GPS,
right?
But you know, he did everything right. I mean, he's fished. You know, he's been around the fishing industry for a long time, fishing too. I mean, he's been fishing for 45 years. Myself driving a boat 35. So I mean, you had 70 plus years of tournament experience driving a boat. And I mean, it can happen that fast because, you know, fog is just so dangerous. And like even now when I'm driving in my truck now, you know, when I get in fog, it doesn't freak me out, but I pay attention a whole lot more. And, you know, you saw my truck, but when my driver's license was revoked, I had to qualify again to drive a truck. So I had to go through, just like I was 15 years old again, I had to go through 10 hours of on the road driver's ed with a skilled technician that taught me how to drive an operated vehicle with hand controls, altered. So instead of you driving it with your feet, you know, brake and gas pedal, now you're doing it with your hands. So I had to go through all the driver's ed training, just like I was 15. I'm talking about the written, the visual.
Wow.
The go down to the DMV, guy gets in the front seat. I had to parallel park using a handicapped vehicle. So I got my driver's license back. Well, then I have to buy a truck. So I bought a 2023 Toyota Tundra.
Beautiful truck.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It's an awesome truck.
Yeah.
And then I had to have it altered. So there's a company in Rowlett, Texas, that alters them. So they take out the knee airbag and they put in this little Bluetooth device, and it Bluetooths to a kind of a little suicide knob that's on the console. I can signal, I can honk the horn, I can turn on the headlights, I can turn on the windshield wipers, and then I have it looks like a boat throttle, and that jacked me up at first. Cause it felt like in my hand, it felt like a Mercury boat throttle, and you would think throttle would be forward, brake would be back, but it's brake forward, throttle back. So if I'm approaching someone, I have to push forward for brake, and then I pull for acceleration. So you had to learn all the dexterity of everything again. And the problem is, you know, when you're driving down the road, you can hold the steering wheel and you've got your foot on the gas, and you can punch the radio and you can take a phone call. So I'm not 2 and 10, but I can't move my hands. That Tundra's got that adaptive cruise, and I use it a lot because it'll you know, view the road, and it'll slow down for you, and it allows you to take a little bit of breaks if you want to take a drink. But I don't do much multitasking driving down the road.
I took some photos there when you rolled up. I mean, it's pretty impressive the way they rigged that thing out, and we'll overlay that as well. But you get around pretty good. It's all custom, and just that little remote, your blinkers, hazards, all that stuff is all on that little remote.
On that, being I never lost my job, but because I had suffered an accident. The state of Texas does have it's a fund or state monies. It's through Texas Workforce Commission. So I had researched about that and I applied, and I was returning to work. And they help you pay for it because it's about a $7,000 or $8,000 alteration to a vehicle. So I mean it's expensive. So all these things that I've had to do to get back on the road and get back on my job. So for my job, like I say, I'm a sales rep for I sell fishing tackle. So I go to all the tackle stores, and the way I do it now is I pull up and I kind of get out of the truck and I follow the lines of the truck using the truck to ground me. Then I get back to the back and I lift my wheelchair out, which it's custom, it's light. I mean, wheelchairs are bulky, but the one I have is like 35 pounds. So, you lift it out, and then, I put my backpack over, and they call me Roller Rep now. That's my nickname. So,
what's the name of the rep group?
I work for Sunbelt Sales.
Sunbelt,
it's owned by Russell Cecil
Yep.
and a gentleman named Rob Marshall. They've been in the industry
Awesome
forever.
guys, yeah.
And I'll never forget when I woke up in ICU. One of the you wake up and you start calling. I call my mom. My wife was already there, but I call my mom, I call my sister, and the third phone call I got was from Russell, and he's pretty emotional. He's like, man, we're gonna, you don't worry about nothing. We're gonna, you can communicate with your dealers via, email, calls, text. We'll have people in the stores. You can, we're Team Brady right now. So you worry about you right now, and that meant the world to me. Because
what do the doctors say, or your opinion? Like, how close to death were you when the incident happened? I mean, no head injuries. I mean, I guess.
I mean, that's what's amazing is there was a divine intervention for sure. Because how I got above that dam and landed flat on my back, I didn't even have a concussion. I didn't have any lacerations to my head. I mean, I had like a skint nose, and everything else was, of course, blown apart. But that was about it,
As the boat hit the actual dam, you said a couple somersaults, and then did you get caught up in the trolling motor or electronic?
I hit it going out, body hit it. Like in the video, you can see it come off.
Really?
But then you see me somersault over the bow of the boat. But I mean, I can still hear like that, just the noises of it. It's just
the boat was totaled.
The boat was completely totaled.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got the pictures of that too, to show the damage of the boat. But the main reason that we wanted to kind of talk about this was to make anglers aware. I want everybody not to feel sorry for me. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm working.
Happy.
I'm thriving.
Yeah.
I play basketball in the driveway with my little boys. I'm here, but I almost wasn't. I mean, to answer your question, probably the biggest threat to me was the blood loss of they said that 70% of people, when they break a compound fracture in your femur, which is your bigger bone, and you've got a biggest artery in your leg, that most of the time when it breaks, it tears the artery with it.
And you bleed out.
You can bleed out. So that was the reason I was care flighted.
And the response time was 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it took them about 15 minutes, and it was about 15 minutes to the hospital because that was the closest trauma center. I thought I'd be going to Dallas, but they took me to Tyler, Texas, and it was a fantastic hospital. I mean, I have nothing but respect for all the doctors there, the physical therapists. I mean, if there's one thing I can tell you in the 2 years I've learned is there's one of the most underappreciated jobs is a physical therapist. I mean, those people. I mean, from Shannon, Jill, Cody that I had over at UT Southwestern to my current, I've got the girls that I work with back home now. I mean, from Patty, Casey, all them. I mean, Casey was the one that my leg literally broke in her hand, and I mean, she was 23 at the time.
Oh my gosh, 23.
Oh yeah, she only been done in about a year or so. It'll traumatize her for the rest of life. I mean, I've never seen somebody cry that much. She was crying and crying and crying. I mean, it tore her down, but they care so much about your recovery. It's not about, he's here for another 45. Yeah. Right. I mean, they care and they drive and they push and they make you grunt and they make you cry and they make you tear up. And I mean, they hammer you, but it's all for your own good. And if you don't do it, I mean, I see people all the time, that just, you can tell they don't try. they don't care to get better. But I mean, I try to push. I mean, because
I could tell.
I want to get back. You know, I want to get back to something normal.
When moving forward, because we just recently had a death in the college series, which it seems like may have had some of the same weather situation that you guys had with fog. There's not a lot out there, not a lot of info out there because it's not being talked about.
This was on Hartwell, correct?
Yeah,
This year.
like a month ago maybe. And then with all these high school tournaments around here with hundreds of boats that go out in fog, not a lot of experience, parents just wanting to get their kids fishing, which I applaud, but they don't have, like you and your tournament partner, you know, you were saying like 70 years combined of experience. How does the industry go from here with tournaments? And when you think about what you went through and trying to get people to process how quick things can happen?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it happens so fast. And, you know, like you said, even with all the experience, we still got in that trouble. And you think about there's such a youth movement now in our sport, and it starts at high school. Then those kids, they're either fishing with their grandpa, they're fishing with their uncle, their dad, you know, their neighbor, whoever has a boat that will take them. They sit there and they observe the way they run the boat, and they're never really taught what to do. And then they move on to college, and then they get daddy's boat.
Yeah.
And, you know, they may have never experienced fog. And I mean, the difference in fog from a car and a boat, boats don't have brakes, cars do. So, I mean, once we saw it, it was too late. And, you know, even if we'd have turned or slowed down, it'd probably been a lot worse than what happened to us. But, you know, the college, I see so many young kids, you know, you get those little Facebook reels that you see or the TikTok videos, and I've seen some that like they glorify like running in fog.
Yeah.
Like I saw one where this kid was driving, and he was driving. It looked like it was in either Toho or
Hauling
Okeechobee,
ass,
like
too.
hauling.
Yeah.
And in the fog, and he even had like the Top Gun, like Danger Zone.
Oh my gosh.
Dubbed over it.
Wow.
And I mean, I'm just like, he's glorifying
Oh,
that he's running.
no.
I mean, it's like he's running in a dark alley or something. I'm just like, man, you just don't understand. I mean, how if another boat comes up and you collide, and you know, that accident that happened at, I think it was Lake Murray a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
during practice too.
It happened during
official-
Oh, it's
practice.
Murray, not Hartwell.
And-
That's right.
You know, I mean, I don't know the details of the accident. All I've seen is like the news reports, and they reported that it was fog related, and you can tell that both boats collided. Like the noses were, you know, the bows of the boats were destroyed. And you know, if there's one thing that I want my story to do, it's not about sorry for me, your poor guy. It's about I want my accident to wake someone else up.
Yes.
The next time that we're sitting there at a tournament takeoff and it's a fog delay, and you're going, dang, I could be catching them on a buzz bait right now. You know, I want to go. Let's go.
Not
let's
worth
go.
it.
Think about me. I mean, think about all the needles, all the pain that I've gone through, all the X-rays, all the this, the that. You know, I want that to cross someone's mind the next time they encounter fog.
Yeah.
Because you're blind on the water.
Yeah.
I mean, you just, you know, we don't have the ability to see in front of us in that situation.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know the right answer if it's training. I know each state's different from what they have as far as boat regulations. I'm on the board at Texas High School Bass Association, and we're trying to make awareness to it. We're going to do some video series about it. But the main thing is, you know, I want someone to look at me in a wheelchair, on a walker, no boat, no ability to launch my own fishing boat anymore.
Right.
Compromised life now. I mean, everything's different for me, and I'll get back to something normal, but it'll always be a different life.
Hopefully this story, you know, again, you know, makes anglers think twice about, you know, whether you're fun fishing or you're under a, you know, a tournament setting. You know, BSS and Elite Series, the Opens, all the ones I've fished at the upper level, those fog delays are dead serious. And like you said, I mean, most anglers are thinking, oh man, I could be catching them right now. This is going to hurt my fishing day, but safety is absolutely the priority out there. So like if, to draw up a checklist, obviously, life jacket and kill switch, always make sure, the auto inflatables are in fact live. They've got the green window on there. Kill switch for one. But like in a foggy or partially foggy situation, after the tournament director says, hey, look, this area is safe to run, you guys be aware. Like what is the proper procedure and run? Let's say we hit a patch of fog. We've been there, Charles, he's been scared. I've been scared at times. I know the answer isn't stop and just stay out there in the middle of the lake, because that's when you get smoked by another competitor or another boater out there. So what is, in your opinion, what's the proper procedure to run through fog? I know it's not sitting still, right? So like on the road, you never want to hit stop in the middle of the highway, right? Is it slow down? Is it always have your running lights on, obviously? Is it slow down to the point to, you hug the bank? In your opinion, in my opinion, for sure, it's always keep something in visual landmark, either, stay close to the ramp, just, idle. Yeah.
If you're idling, you really can't hit too much.
Sure.
I've fished tournaments at Rayburn before where like fog comes in and you're out in the middle of the lake on like, way out fishing offshore, and you hear like boats running, and you can't see, and that like freaks you out.
Yes.
That will never happen to me again. Like I will never.
If everyone's idling though, then it is safe.
Yeah.
But if all of you are running around,
well, that's the thing. It's the next guy.
You just said you should run around. I don't know that I've been in that situation where Bass has cleared us to go in an open because of around the takeoff ramp it looked okay, and then as soon as you got partially down the lake, it was thick.
Yep.
And then you get in that situation where you're like, I got to catch fish, I'm on the clock, and you stop thinking about the safety aspect, and you kind of tell yourself, don't be a pussy, like man up, Trait, just keep going. But with tournament organizations, does anything fall on them in those situations, do you think? Like how do you handle that?
I'm sure the legalities are pretty strong, and you never really see them come out and publicly say anything because they're worried about their own organization getting sued, and I can tell you that lawsuits aren't fun, and dealing with lawyers and dealing with all that stuff is just not fun. It's just there's so many different facets of it. Everybody, the lawyers want to chase the GPS on the boat, and somebody's got to be at fault for it. And it's just. It's a slippery slope, but it's something that you just got to learn to respect.
Yeah.
If I were to get back to the point where I'm driving a boat and we get let loose from a tournament site and I encounter fog, I'm getting to the bank and I'm gonna idle and I'm gonna just fish the bank until it clears. If I drop the clutch and don't catch them in tournament, that's fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't in
no
harm's
5-pounder, 6-pounder is worth that. I obviously after hearing your story, there are numerous. This morning I knew you were coming, and I think like back in 2014 or so, Shin Fukai was in one of the team boats, and he hit a bridge on just outside of Paris Landing out there on Pickwick, I believe, where he completely totaled the boat, injured, and I think he was injured. His marshal or co-angler was injured as well. And it's just amazing over the years, decades and decades of tournament bass fishing, how intense these guys are. Seems like every single year, they're just more and more hungry to succeed and do well on the big stage. And, it's just not worth, it's not worth risking lives over, trying to catch that first 5-pounder, like you said, on a buzzbait.
I feel like our industry has kind of gotten lucky too that we haven't had as many accidents as even in the high school program. There are days I'm like, how does this function and no one get hurt every event? And we've forgotten what can happen.
mean, at the end of the day, it's you're responsible for your own boat. The gentleman you were with, I mean, it's your vessel, your car when you're on the road. I mean, you just have to make the best decisions you could possibly make in that situation. I know they're all different, and I know accidents do happen, but I mean, you have to try as hard as you can to avoid every single accident out there, and a
But
lot of times it's hard though, because all you want to do is catch that 5 pounder on a buzz bait in low light conditions,
And you talking about Shin Fukai. I mean, Mike McClellan, good friend of mine.
McClellan, yes.
He got in that wreck at I think it was Table Rock or Lake of the Ozarks. He and Kelly Power collided, and I mean it hurt Kelly pretty bad. I mean it was a fog related accident. I'd asked Mike if I could mention this, but
Yeah.
like they collided. Like actually, Mike's boat ran up on Kelly's, and I mean it broke his neck, or it broke his neck in a portion of his jaw. Like Kelly had to have his wire, his he ate through a straw for a while. I mean, so it just can happen so fast.
The other video that was running around was the MMA guy. What's his name? Legit Brit, originally from California, or still lives in California. But he had one that wasn't fog related. He hooked his boat, and this happens a lot too, where, you're making a turn or sharp turn or whatever, and he hit a wake sideways and he launched right onto. Have you seen that video?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you haven't seen it? I'll show you it here in a little bit. But yeah, he hit a boat wake, and instead of going straight, he hooked it and he launched straight onto land. Skipped over the point, ended back in the water. His rod lockers were all opened up. It's all on video. I mean, he got lucky.
But
he got really lucky.
The real question is, how do we teach college anglers, high school anglers, even in the opens, how you need to handle those situations?
It wouldn't hurt to have a class. It really wouldn't hurt to have a pre-season class on boating, boater safety, really.
Even if it's just a video.
Just a video, yeah.
I mean, just like to show what can happen. Because, I mean, like, I got y'all the video of my accident. The way I obtained that video, first off, where we impacted the dam, there was a water tower about 50, 70 yards away, and it had a game cam on it. And I didn't know that the video existed until later on.
And this is Texas Parks and Wildlife. Mm-hmm. They had it, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that the video existed, and someone had told me they'd seen it, a game warden, and I said, "Can I see it?" And he said, "You really want to see it?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. I mean, I feel like I earned it. I want to see it." So he showed it to me. So then I obtained it through public record, and I hope that video, that you guys are gonna play, I hope that people see that and go, "Oh wow!"
Avoid this at all possible cost. What were you when you first saw the video? I mean, what were you feeling? Like what goes through your mind?
It seemed a lot slower than what it was. Like, you go from 40 miles an hour to nothing, and inertia happens and stuff. But to me, it felt a lot slower than that. Like,
wow.
Like I said, I can still hear the sounds of it to this day. I mean, I can rehash all of it. But that very year, I had lost several good friends. Like Mark Pack died of COVID. He was a good friend of mine. I repped his company for years. He had died of COVID. I had another friend of mine, Keith Glasby, that had just died. And like, I've always thought like I had angels with me that day, because somebody lifted me above that dam. Because I mean, it could have been worse.
Wow.
And I tell myself that all the time. Like whether I'm in rehab or whether I'm in a hospital, like I always see worse. And that's when I count my blessings, because it can always be worse.
And you're still real tight with the boater. It's your friend or fishing partner.
Yeah, we're good. I mean, he took some time off and then resumed fishing.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like you got a divorce and you watch your ex-wife start dating somebody else.
Yeah,
it was just different, because like we fished together, had fished tournaments for 15 years, and it's just kind of tough to. One sitting there watching Bassmasters and the other one's fishing. So it's just.
As far as is he like living with guilt or anything like that? Or that's a tough deal.
It's been really tough.
Yeah,
I mean, it's tough on him. I mean, like accidents happen. I mean, he didn't mean anything by it. I mean, it wasn't like I say, it was just a damn accident.
I mean, as bad as it is and was, I mean, it could have been worse.
Could have been worse.
Yeah.
One thing I will tell everybody, if you're a tournament fisherman, if you're in these pro-co type deals and you have to carry liability insurance, carry bunch.
Yeah.
like them, most tournament organizations, I don't know what Bassmaster is, but I know like in
300 grams.
300,
Yeah.
300 in opens when I fished them, but that does not go
That's
very
nothing.
far. It's nothing.
It's
I
bare
mean, that didn't
minimum.
even cover, that barely covered my care flight and the first doctor that visited me. I mean,
Wow.
carry as much, because it's not that much. Like
Yeah.
your policy, if you go from 300 to 500 to a million, it doesn't change, but
No.
$30
I
a
was gonna
month.
say,
I mean, it's
yeah.
not like it's $100 more a month, but just, think about that, because especially if you're a tournament angler and you've got a stranger in your boat that you've never met,
Right.
and something, let's just say something like what happened to me happened to a stranger you don't know. I mean, his wife may want to see you, his
Yeah.
insurance company may want to see you. I mean, you need that coverage.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my, that's one thing I would definitely advise people to look at their policy, read
I know
through it.
Progressive. We hopped on with Progressive these last couple of years, and their insurance policy. I don't know who covers you, but their policies are amazing. And like you said, I've shopped around, and when you up it from the bare minimum 300,000 for BASS, I mean, you bump it up to 500, $500,000 or 800,000, million, whatever it is, liability coverage. The premiums don't go up that much.
Right.
So I mean, we encourage everyone to look into that. Absolutely.
When looking back, I don't ever remember in the opens or in the high school events anyone talking to us really about what could happen. Like they say, okay, practice safe boating, but then it ends there, right? What would, especially if someone from Bassmaster's listening right now, what would you recommend happening or being implemented going forward to teach everyone the risks and to keep that in the forefront of their mind?
I think the main thing is it would just start with respect. Like, don't think that, you're cool because you're running through fog. I mean, it's, like I say, it's blindness.
Plain danger zone.
I don't know if it's, I don't want them to go to a point where they say if it's foggy, you got to stop practicing, or you got to go hit the bank, or, like, I think MLF has those weather delays or whatever. I don't ever want it to get to that.
Right.
But anglers need to be smart enough to know, like, okay, this is dangerous. It's the same thing when you're out there and lightning's crackling around. You're holding a 6-foot or 7-foot graphite rod. You're holding a conductor in your hand. I mean, that's
Dumb.
that's dangerous to be
Yeah.
sitting out there. And the
Yeah.
same thing goes with fog. I mean, if it's foggy, you either idle, find a landmark, in my opinion. I mean, there just ought to be some basic training.
Yeah.
Like, here's what you should do. Now, they may not do it. It's kind of like, I got people that don't want to wear a seatbelt when they're in their car. But,
Right.
those are, there's rules, and I think you should at least advise people of the right thing to do, because it just takes 2 seconds to change everything.
Another thing worth mentioning, when we take off, typically single file in these tournaments, when the tournament director deems that morning or that day, visibly safe, you'll hit some patchy fog and things, but, one bit of advice I could give the viewers in those foggy situations is, as we're leaving single file, just like you're driving a car at night with headlights, don't ever outrun your vision. It's simple to say and think about, but, obviously the thicker the fog, the slower you must go, but always try to kind of gauge where that person is in front of you. You see his running light. I mean, if that running light appears to just a tiny little light, LED light, I mean, slow way down. I mean, it's just like you said, there's no brakes on this thing. We can't hit the brakes. So always know, visibly, like, you kind of gauge what the fog is based on that guy in front of you who's idling out.
I feel like if you can see an LED light, you're really close.
Yeah.
Like in a
Slow
foggy
down.
situation.
Slow way down. Yeah. That too. And then also,
The bank situation, I think, is a must.
also too, like we just had this at Toledo Bend, right? Charles and I were in a huge, one of those practice days. The fog, was very thick. And you have to stay in the boat lanes there. You can't go out into the trees. But you could also gauge you could kind of use it as an aid, but you could kind of gauge how big the wakes are. We all know normally what, wakes, how big a wake is based on the distance and things, but you could also use the boat wake in front of you as a gauge to make your adjustments, and typically it's just slow way down.
Yeah.
But yeah, in that situation, Toledo Bend, you can't stop. You can idle maybe out of there, but it's always better to play it safe than sorry, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I guess like recently as well. I mean, we had the Murray one, talked about the Shinfukai one, McClellan, yeah. And then there's other accidents like there was that one on Pickwick where it wasn't fog related, but did you hear about the one where it was a high school or high school team, I believe? They launched
over
their
the dam.
boat. Yeah,
Yeah.
they launched their boat in high current. It was a high current situation after big rain. The outboard wasn't running, but they decided to fish the tournament on the trolling motor. And before too long, that current, I guess they launched down on the south end of Pickwick, and it's real close to the dam there. Russian current. They figured they just troll around, and before you know it, that current swept them onto the face of the dam, and they actually ended up going over. I don't know if they got sucked down below or they went over the
I remember they
face.
found all three
Yeah.
bodies like a few days later.
That is
downstream.
insane. It's
It's
just not worth it. It's not. It's not worth it.
Yeah, we second guess Mother Nature and how bad things are a lot.
Yeah.
But that's what I want people to gain, and mainly the organizations. How can we team up to educate people? Because like you said, most people, even when they grew up fishing a lot, aren't necessarily educated because they don't, a lot of times they don't incur, if that's the right word, those weather situations. And so there's not a time, for their dad or whoever to be like, okay, in this situation, this is how you handle it. And so their first scenarios, they're by themselves and have no teaching on how to handle it. So
Yeah, and the thing about fog is most people think it only happens like early morning, but I mean, certain parts of the world it can drift in any time.
Yeah.
It can drift in at high noon.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened at the Murray event. I think like it was fine that morning, and I think they encountered a lot of fog midday, and that broke my heart to see that because like
Yeah.
I've tried the best I can to tell my story. I mean,
yeah,
I'm no savior, but I just want people to
No, that's
know,
great. Absolutely.
like this is what can happen.
Yep.
Like,
No.
my life's been reset like a push of a button. My wife opens doors for me now instead of me opening doors for her. It's just different. But it's been a journey. But
is there anything like when it comes to medical expenses, is it still stacking up?
yeah, they all have a comma in them. I can tell you. Yeah, all the bills that come. I mean,
Is the GoFundMe page still live?
it's still alive.
Oh, and what is it exactly?
It's just it was under my name Brady Winans, and then it had I think Billy Klein started. If you just go to GoFundMe, it's still active. You just search the name, it pops up.
Brady Winans. Okay.
I mean, I still look back at it all the time and just look at all the people that donated, and like there's no way I could have gone in and written a thank you note for every one of them. But I mean, it's just it swells your heart up. I mean, it's a lot of people tell me I'm an inspiration for being as positive I am, but
You are very positive.
I'm
much.
positive, but
You
like
really
and that
are.
humbles me to hear that. But man, like I say, I've got two little boys watching me, and
Do it for
they're
them.
gonna learn that you don't quit. I mean, because I've spent countless hours in rehabs, and I have seen so much bad stuff. I mean, from kids in wheelchairs to kids with injuries to stroke victims to people that they literally pick up in a bag and transfer them onto a table and move their arms around a little bit. I mean, like, it can always be worse. Like, and it's kind of funny how stuff pops into your head. Like, the surgeon or not the surgeon, but I see a specialist at UT Southwestern that specializes in post spinal cord injuries, like trying to get the best out of your body, how to more movement, stuff like that. But the last time I saw her, I asked her, I said, what's the chances of the feeling coming back in my feet? And she said, at this point, I'd probably write them off. I got pretty down. I mean, I wasn't depressed, but I was just, I didn't want to hear that, because I've still been kind of holding out hope that all of a sudden one day they're going to be.
Right.
And my wife was there with me, and she kind of patted me on the shoulder, and she's like, don't worry about it. It's all right. And we get downstairs, and she had to run to the restroom. We had valeted the car or my truck. She runs off the restroom. I'm sitting there kind of down, and give the valet my keys. And about that time, this van pulls up, and like back gate comes down. Lady about my wife's age gets out, and she walks up in there, and she comes out with a wheelchair. A guy about my age, and I mean, he's just in
a vegetative state, yeah,
hair down. And it's like someone's telling me, like, hey man, it can be worse.
It can be worse. And
yeah, that's the thing. Like I try to be positive every day, because I mean, the windshield's bigger than the rearview mirror for a reason. You know? I mean, it can always be worse.
Yeah.
Don't look behind you. Just look forward.
You've lived through a lot in the last few years here, and definitely have a very, very positive vibe about you, man. That's very inspirational, man. It really is. And if nothing else, like I said, that here sitting with you today, I mean, hopefully people take all this stuff into consideration, and the next time there's a foggy event, don't say, oh, this is gonna hurt my fishing time. It's more like, okay, we're alive.
A 5-pounder and a buzzbait is not worth it.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're alive.
I wish I'd have stayed in bed that day.
Yeah, yeah, right.
But we didn't know.
Yep.
You don't ever know. Like, tomorrow's not promised. So
yep.
Next time you encounter it, think about me, Chris. Next time y'all are sitting there
absolutely.
and you're complaining about that fog delay, just think
absolutely.
about me.
It's good to see you smiling and still working. And if there's anyone out there that is interested in carrying any of the products you represent, definitely check out the Sunbelt stuff.
Yeah.
And you're still working every single day, right?
Still working.
Yeah.
Roller
writing orders and.
Yeah, I mean, my boss has said, man, this may be good. You may get all the sympathy. You may get sympathy orders. Because, a lot of reps always get bad names. They say, I hadn't seen my rep. And they're like, well, you're pulling up in a wheelchair. So, it's kind of funny, because, like, I'll be at some stores, and I guess I look bad because I'll be up there, like, struggling to take my wheelchair out. And everybody's always like, can I help you? Can I help you? And I'm like, oh, my God, I got it. I mean, if there's one thing that this accident has showed me, is the human spirit is unbelievable. Like, I don't know how many times I'm somewhere and someone offers to help. Man, can I help you lift that? Or, it's just been unbelievable. Like, I would have never thought before this accident that I would have, had so many friends step forward to help me and my family, because I don't honestly know where we'd be without it. I've been blessed with, like I say, my wife, she's an RN, and she comes by naturally as far as her caring aspect. But I mean, I don't know where I'd be without her.
That's amazing.
You look at the divorce rates when something like this happens to people. It's either the injury itself or the financial ramifications of it. And I mean, she's never dropped a beat.
It'll go one of two ways, really. I mean, you either get extreme, you get closer, or you get further apart. I mean, right? I mean, life is life-changing as it is. I mean, it's good to hear, you've got a nurse wife and fully supportive and 2 boys. That's just amazing. It's a great story about you.
She changes all the light bulbs in our house.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, Chris. I'm thankful that you came on today.
Yep.
And
thank you for having me.
If there's anything we can do to help with those videos that you're doing for the high school group, just call us, because I think that it's overdue. It stinks that an accident had to happen, for this all to occur. But also, like you said, you're here for a reason.
Yeah. And if anyone, watching or listening, wants to help with some of these incurring medical bills, check out his GoFundMe. That's Brady Winans. That's BradyWinans. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brady Winans. And it's a heck of a story, man. And thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm going to hop on there and at least take care of your gas for today. So, and then a little something else, because that's an amazing story. And we're so glad to have you. Mileage. We're so glad to have you in the Dallas-Fort Worth area representing bass fishing and telling your story. And, heck, it can save a life. This very show and this very story could absolutely save a life here in the future.
I hope it does.
In the sport of bass fishing.
Yeah, I hope it does.
Got anything else?
No, I think we've covered it all. It's hard for me to talk because I get emotional. I know you talked about not crying, but I'm like over here crying for you, you know?
Yeah, like the toughest part for me was when I was in that, when the accident happened and EMS got there and people were like, man, you can be okay. They give you the old back pat and, you're like, I got this. And when I got in that helicopter and they shut the doors and I watched those rotors turn, I just took my mind and went in the box and I just started thinking about my wife, my two little boys. And I just thought to myself, like, I knew I was hurt. Like,
Yeah.
I knew, like, this is probably going to be a life-changing injury. But I knew I had upper body, and
Yeah.
I just thought to myself at that point, I'm like, no matter what happens from this day on, if I'm paralyzed from the waist down, so be it. I'm going to still be the best dad I can be. And, I try to teach those boys. I mean, like I say, I get out in the driveway, and I play basketball with them. I mean, I guard them with I'll take off my handrails and stick them up in the air and guard them. And, I mean, I throw a football with them. I try to do everything that a normal dad can do. I just do it from a shorter position.
You got this, man. You got this.
it.
Hell of an inspiration.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you guys fish in high school tournaments together.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, so what's fishing wise, what's next for Brady?
I'm gonna try to fish a tournament this weekend.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to this weekend. I mean, I love going. I mean, anytime somebody's got a back seat, I mean, I want to go. I mean, like I say, everything is still here and everything's still here.
That's
I
awesome.
just, everybody likes to tell me I can still skip a chatterbait, the best of them from a seated position. I've had to go to like shorter rods because, if you use I was using like 7.3s and 7.6s, and
Sure.
now I'm back down to like 6.10s
6'10s,
and stuff because, I
6'9",
just got too much rod to fight.
Nothing wrong with
And
that.
like when you try to skip a frog with a 7.3 in a seated position,
It ain't happening.
you got to find other ways to do it. And I've had to start using a spinning rod and skipping a wacky worm, stuff like that. But
That's
I'm
cool.
out there. I
Well-
sat there in the hospital and watched too many bass lives. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I say, it's tough to be a backseater with a front seat mind, but I'm out there.
You're making
that's
it
what
work.
matters. That's what
That's
matters
awesome.
the most. It's what I was born. It's what I was born in Lebanon. And that's what I want to raise my boys to do. I mean, I feel like, right now it's kind of that time when like your dad probably did the same that mine did. I mean, I spent all my young life underneath that 515 bridge at Lake Fork fishing with my dad, and I mean, I feel like I'm being robbed of that with my boys. But I try to find someone to take us fishing. Like either a guide trip to go sand bass fishing or something. I try to keep them on the water, and it hurts because like we'll go and we'll catch them pretty good and we'll drive home and they're like, that was so much fun. When are we going again?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, why don't y'all just punch me in the face? I mean, it's just tough.
I would love to take you guys here in the near future, man. I would absolutely. It'd be an honor to take you guys fishing.
You better have a lot of Dr. Pepper and
Yeah.
Snicker bars.
Hey, I'm good with that. I'm A-okay with that, Brady. And man, you said a lot today, and you're a hell of an inspiration, like I said. And before we let you go, heck, you've experienced a lot. But I just want to ask, I mean, can you give the viewers some, life advice? I won't ask you about fishing advice. I won't ask you about business advice, but just as we part ways here, you give us some life advice.
Man, my life advice would just be to never take anything for granted. I mean, anything. I mean, just tying my shoes is different now. I mean, everything, just don't take anything for granted. Like tomorrow's not promised. That's the main thing I would think is because, like I say, I'll see buddies of mine that are complaining about a finish at a tournament. I'm like, man, it can always be worse.
Yeah.
That's what I tell everybody. It can always be worse because it can. Because I mean, I've lived it the last 2.5 years. So it's been I only wish I knew how many times I've counted to 20 in rehab in the last 2 years. It's over 1 million, I guarantee you.
Golly.
But
Well, Brady, thank you so much, and it's good to see that Brady is being built back better. And Charles, why are you laughing?
We're anti-Biden in this household.
Okay, all right, we'll end the podcast there. Brady, thank you so much.
You bet.
I would love to take you fishing here in the near future.
go.
And everyone listening and watching, go check out that GoFundMe because I'm sure Brady would appreciate it as well as his family. So you did awesome, man. Thank you for sharing your
Thank
story
y'all for
with
having me.
us. And
Honored to be here.
And I'm sure it'll help the young future. And
I enjoy your podcast a lot.
Yep.
I like it. A lot of good topics on there. I watch it every time you update one. So
Thank you.
awesome. Brady, thank you so much.
you bet.
Get
Thank
home
y'all.
safe, and we'll see you next time.
Appreciate it.